the Tall Corn Book Talk. I'm Nick Bergus, the books columnist for the Iowan magazine. And with me is Steve Semken, the publisher at Ice Cube Press. We plan to get together quarterly and talk about interesting authors, debate some sort of hot topics in the publishing industry, as well as recommend some good books.
Oh yeah, those are all going to be fun and easy.
So let's talk about some good books. What do you have?
Well, I've got tons of books. If you could see my house, the place is just stacked with books that I want to read, that I just read, that I want to read twice, I want to read again. But some of them I picked up this recent season that I really enjoyed. The first one is called The Paris Wife, and it's not really a book for me to enjoy necessarily, because it's not that it's from a woman's point of view that I wouldn't like it, but the cover doesn't really attract me until I started reading the first few pages. And it's all about Ernest Hemingway's first wife and a time when Ernest Hemingway and Fitzgerald were all in Paris, and they were all getting started in this writing adventure. And so I've always been a sucker for that time period. And this one, I really thought it captured that whole spirit again. It was nice to revisit all that time and think about Hemingway and Fitzgerald again. So that's one I picked up recently, and I don't know, we'll go back and forth.
I wanted to mention Possum Trot, which is actually a book that you published.
Good book.
But there was some debate about pronunciation. But J. Harvey McElraith is what we're going with. We're going to stick with that. Right. It's a nice collection of short stories and vignettes. A lot about rural life and life in Iowa. But one of the things that I really liked about the collection is that it's not this sort of precious, nostalgic stories that I think so often sort of defines that genre. That he's funny, you know, he comes from an academic background, and so there's mocking academia in there, which is fantastic. And some really nice poignant stories as well. And they don't all take place, you know, within shouting distance of a cornfield and a broken down pickup truck and, you know, a barnyard.
Yeah, I know. People fall for those stereotypes all the time, but it's really hard to find a stereotype out there. Another one I picked up and read, which starts out, I promise people, it's called Driftless by David Rhodes, who was a writer here at the University of Iowa Workshop for a number of years, and he wrote two really fantastic books. And then he kind of disappeared for a while. He had a car accident, and he's resurfaced with this book called Driftless. And it is that area we think of in northeast Iowa where the glaciers haven't come through and there's springs everywhere. But this is such a great, it's like a jigsaw puzzle of small town characters. But the thing I really liked about it is that you pick up the book and it's like you're visiting this town as a stranger. And so you start out confused because you don't understand everyone that he's talking about. But as you read the book, you start to, he'll make a reference to someone that you read about 80 pages ago. And pretty soon you feel like you're part of this driftless community. And so it's really an ingenious interweaving of, I hate to say small town life, but every place is worth living in. And so there's this, all the emotions that go into living in this small town and this small place. It's all just as real as anywhere else. And it's a fascinating collection of, I guess, characters all blended together.
Another book I wanted to mention that is actually going to be very hard for sort of literate people to take seriously because it has lots of pictures. Is the most recent edition of Jack of Fables. Recently came out. Jack of Fables is actually a spin-off of another graphic novel series. And it's written by a guy named Willingham, excuse me. And it's sort of the whole notion behind the story is that there's this world where all of the people from legends and fables and nursery rhymes exist in real life, and that they've had to flee this homeland for ours because they're under attack.
So this is like this is graphic novel?
This is graphic novels, absolutely. Right. Lots of artwork, you know, little speech balloons. Hard to take seriously if you're just a book reader. But it's an incredibly literate graphic novel. It's not about just killing people and sort of that thing. And there's lots of literary allusion and that sort of thing throughout. And it's actually very cleverly done.
Well, I had one more. What inspired me to writing in the first place is the environment and our place within, I guess you could call the natural world, and how we as humans can fit in better. And so I've always had an attraction to fishing, not for catching the fish, but just for standing in a trout stream and then watching the clouds go over. And there's this author called David Abram who wrote, his first book was The Spell of the Sensuous, and it's a magician's view of how we live with this world. And I haven't read this one yet, so maybe by the next show I can tell you how it turned out. But I'm looking forward to reading this one called Becoming Animal, an Earthly Cosmology, just because I trust his voice, and I fully recommend Spell of the Sensuous to people as well. But this is one that I know I'm going to like. Did you have another one, or do you want to?
No, that was...
Oh, well, I have one more that's a perfect thing for us to talk about, because our guest today, we're blessed to have one of Iowa's finest authors here today. And I would say that his most recent book is What Cheer, Iowa, a love story. And we'll ask him a little bit about it, of course, but it's we'll bring him out and I'll talk to him, we'll introduce him, but Zachary Michael Jack is somehow he's able to write poetry and essays and fiction and everything. And this is I think probably one of his first works of long fiction. And he captures the spirit of Iowa and also these universal ways of finding love and feeling a love for a place. Those are my book wraps for today.
Okay.